Hello and welcome to the next edition of the BriefingsDirect Voice of the Customer podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing discussion on digital transformation success. Stay with us now to learn how agile businesses are fending off disruption in favor of innovation. Our next Internet of Things Technology Trends interview explores how IT combines with Internet of Things to help create the refinery of the future. We'll now learn how a leading-edge petrochemical company in Texas is rethinking data gathering and analysis to foster safer working places and greater efficiency. Here to help us define the best of the refinery of the future, we're joined by Doug Smith, the CEO of Texmark Chemicals in Galena Park, Texas. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Dana. It's good to be here.
We're delighted to have you with us. J.R. Fuller joins us. He's the Worldwide Business Development Manager for Edgeline IoT at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Welcome, J.R.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
We're glad to have you here. What are the top trends driving this need for a new refinery of the future, Doug? Why isn't the refinery of the past good enough?
Well, Dana, that's a great question. First of all, I want to talk about people because people are the catalyst to make this refinery of the future. At Texmark Chemicals, we've spent the last 20 years making capital investments in our infrastructure, our physical plant, and in the last 4 years, we have put together a roadmap for the IT needs that we have. Through our introduction to HPE, we have entered into a partnership which is not a client-customer relationship. It has allowed us to work together to discover the IT solutions, IoT solutions that we can bring to bear on our IT challenges at Texmark. So we are on a voyage of discovery together, and we are sailing out to sea. It's going great.
JR, it's always impressive when a new technology trend can aid and abet a business need, and then the business can show you through their innovation of what should come next in the technology. How is that back and forth working, and where should we expect IoT to go in the not-too-distant future?
Sure. So one of the things that's very powerful about the partnership that we have, the relationship that we have, is we each respect and understand each other's swim lanes. So I'm not trying to be a chemical company, and I'm trying to understand what they do and how I can help them. But their job is to make chemicals, and they're not trying to become an IT or an IoT company. Their job is, again, to make chemicals. Our job is to figure out the IT. We're seeing these guys transform, and it's really interesting to transform from a kind of an old world economy type of a business to a new world economy type of a business. This is huge. This is transformational. And like Doug has said, they have made huge investments in their physical assets and what we would call our operations technology, the OT. And they've done that for the last 20 years. And the people that they had, that they have at Texmark that are actually using these assets are phenomenal. They got, decades of experience doing this stuff. The IoT is really new for them. And how to leverage that. So they've said, we've squeezed as much as we can out of this OT technology and out of our people and our processes and things like that. Let's see what else is out there. And through the introductions that we've had with us and our ecosystem partners, we've been able to show them how we can even help squeeze more out of those OT assets using this, these new technologies. So it's really exciting to do that.
Doug, let's level set this a little bit for our audience. They might not all be familiar with the refinery or even the petrochemical industry, but you're in the process of processing. You're making one material into another, and you're doing that at bulk, and you need to do it specifically on a just-in-time basis given the demands of supply chains these days. So if you have a large campus, you needed to make a network mesh reach every corner of it. So let's start with that. How does a network become an enabler for your just-in-time requirements?
Sure. And Dana, I love the fact that you use the vocabulary word campus. In the facility in which we work, we call it the plant. So in the plant facility, we have different pieces of equipment. One piece of equipment would be a pump, and a pump, the analogy would be the heart of the process facility of the plant. And so your question regarding the mesh network. If we can sensor a pump and tie it into a mesh network, there is incredible cost savings to us. A physical wiring of a pump runs anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per pump to run actual wires in that. So we see a savings in that. Being able to have the information wirelessly right away, that gives us knowledge immediately that we wouldn't have otherwise. We have workers, millwrights at the plant that physically go out and inspect every single pump in our plant. We have 133 pumps. If we can utilize our sensors through the wireless network, our millwrights can concentrate on the pumps that they know are having problems.
You're also able to track those individuals, those workers. So if there's a need to communicate, to locate, to make sure that they're adhering to policy, that's another big part of this Internet of Things. The things and the people come together.
Sure. And the tracking worker is more of a safety issue. And safety is critical, absolutely critical in a petrochem facility, that we account for all our people, that we know where they are in the event of any type of emergency situation. So that is where that comes into play.
Sure. Okay, let's think about this too now that we've got the mesh, we've got the sensors, we can link things up. We can start to analyze and bring that data analytics to the edge, maybe with a mini data center facility, something that's ruggedized and tough and able to handle a plant environment. So, JR, what sorts of efficiencies are organizations like Texmark seeing? I know in some businesses they talk about, double-digit increases, but in a mature company or in a mature industry, what's the sort of benefit and how does that translate into dollars?
Yeah, so we talk about the power of 1%. A 1% change in a major, one of the 5 major companies, is multi-billions of dollars. So a 1% change is huge. And yes, at Texmark we're able to see some larger efficiencies, percentage-wise efficiencies, because they're actually very nimble. It's hard to turn the big Titanic, but the smaller boat is actually much better. So we're able to do things at Texmark that we're not able to do at other places, but we're also able to create that blueprint of how to do it. And you're absolutely right. Doing edge compute, with our edge line and with the micro data center that we've installed there, so we can bring additional compute there, provides a lot of opportunities for us to go into the predictive part of this. And that's really where you see the efficiencies. We were walking through their main tolling process and walking through with the engineers, and I was out there. We were in PPE and personal protective equipment, and we're walking through the factory and we're going through and they're showing us all the equipment that we're looking at sensoring up and adding all these analytics. And I noticed something on one of the pumps. And I've been around pumps. I know pumps pretty well. I saw this thing on it. I said, "What is that?" He said, "That's a filter." I said, what happens if the filter gets clogged? It shuts down the whole pump. Well, what happens if you lose this pump? I lose the whole process. Okay, is there sensors on this filter? No. There's sensors on the pump, but there wasn't sensors on the filter. Now, that's just something that we just hadn't thought of, right? But again, I'm not a chemical guy, so I can ask questions that, maybe they didn't ask before. So I said, how do you solve this problem today? And we have it on a scheduled maintenance plan. And so they don't have a problem, right? But they have it on a scheduled maintenance plan. So whether that filter needs to be changed or not, it gets changed on a regular basis. Using IoT technologies, we can tell them exactly when to change that filter. So it saves on the cost of filter, it saves on the cost of manpower, and those types of efficiency. And that was just one small example of the things that we're trying to accomplish.
So, Danny, just to add what JR is saying, it just points to the uniqueness of the people relationship between the HPE team and our partners and the Texmark team. Is we were able to have these conversations to identify things that we hadn't even thought about before. And if we had more time, I could give you 25 examples of things just like this where we go, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that, and it makes people safer and the company more efficient.
Mm-hmm. You don't know until you have that network in place and the data analytics to utilize it, what the potential use cases can be. So that seems to be the name of the game, is utilization efficiency, but also continuous operations. How do you increase your likelihood or reduce the risk of disruption and enhance your continuous operations using these analytics? So let's take it a step up from the sensors and the network into the data. How does that data give you an eye to continuous operation benefits, which of course translate into many business benefits, Doug?
So I'm going to use the example of toll processing. Toll processing is when we would have a customer come to us and ask us to run a process on the equipment that we have at Texmark. Normally, they would give us a recipe. We would process the material. We would take samples throughout the process production and deliver an end product to them. With these analytics, with the sensoring, with all these components of Refinery of the Future, we will provide a value add to customers by giving them more data than they could ever want in the manufacture and production of their particular chemical that we're toll processing for them.
Right.
And to add on to that, as part of that process, sometimes you have to do multiple runs when you're tolling something, right? Because of your feedstock and the way it works out, you have to do multiple runs. Well, by using advanced analytics and some of the predictive and having that data available, we're looking to gain efficiencies and cutting down the amount of additional runs that we can do. And so if you take a process that maybe would take 3 runs to make it efficient, and we can knock that down to 2 runs, that's a 30% decrease in cost and expense, and also allow them to produce more product and get it out to people a lot faster.
Exactly.
And, of course, the more insight that you get from a pump, then the more data analysis that gives you insight into a larger process, timetables benefit. You can extend that data and information into your supply chain. So there's no guesswork. There's no gap. You have complete visibility, and that's a big plus when it comes to reducing risk in any large, complex undertaking.
It goes back to relationships, and within Texmark, we have relationships with our neighbors that are unique in the industry, and to be able to share the data that we have
with suppliers.
Exactly,
and
with suppliers and vendors, it's transformational.
So you bring up another point, JR, and that is that you're extending a common, standard, industry accepted platform into this entire process, so that if you do have another partner, they don't come into a language issue or a platform incompatibility issue or an integration issue. You've got a common IT, industry-wide, globally accepted infrastructure.
And that's very important. And that was our first step. When we look at we have a 3-phase project, and we've just finished the first 2 phases. Phase 1 was to put the ubiquitous Wi-Fi infrastructure in there with the location-based services and all of the things to enable those. The second was to upgrade the compute infrastructure with our Edgeline compute and putting our micro data center in there. So now they've got some very robust compute. Well, that infrastructure in place now allows us to do that 3rd phase where we're bringing in those 5 IoT projects. And within that, we want to create, you're correct, a data infrastructure, right, with, historian data and application interfaces and things like that now that allows us to bring in maybe a specialty analytic or a specialty video analytic, but it will overlay on top of that, physical and logical infrastructure, and it makes it so much easier to kind of integrate that.
You get a chance to customize the apps much better when you've got a standard architecture underneath them, right?
Well, and exactly what he's saying, Dana, is it gives me chills when I start thinking about what we're doing in Texmark within our industry of setting a standard, blazing a new trail. Because when we talk to our customers and our suppliers, and we tell them about this Refinery of the Future project that we're initiating, all other business goes out the window because they want to know more about what we're doing with this Internet of Things, and that is incredibly encouraging.
And I have to imagine there's a competitive advantage here if you get out in front and you're blazing that trail. If you have the experience and the skills of understanding how to leverage an IoT environment and an edge computing capability, you're going to continue to be a step ahead of the competition on many levels: efficiency, safety, ability to customize in the supply chain, and visibility.
Sure, and allow our TechSmart team to do their jobs better. I use the example of the millwrights going out and inspecting pumps, and they do that every day. They do it very well. If we can give them the tools where they can focus on what they do best over a lifetime of working with pumps, which is to work on the pumps that they need to. That's a great example. I am extremely excited about the opportunities of the Refinery of the Future to bring new workers into the petrochem industry. We have a large number of people within our industry who are retiring. They're taking intellectual capital with them to be able to show young people that we are using technology in new and exciting ways is a real draw, and it will bring more young people into our industry.
JR, I suppose one last item to look at here architecturally is, we're enabling and empowering that edge and standardizing around it. It also gives us an opportunity to think about the other part of the spectrum, and that's the cloud. So there are cloud services, and there are larger data sets and analysis of industry trends that can be brought to bear. How does the linking of the edge to the cloud have a benefit, not only at TechSmart, but across the industry?
Yes, so TechSmart has one location, and they service the world from that one location as a global leader of DCPD production. So the cloud doesn't have the same impact as it would against maybe one of the other big oil companies or big petrochemical companies. But there are ways that we are going to use the cloud at TechSmart as well. And really it's around safety and security. So utilizing our location-based services and our compute when and if there is an emergency, whether it's at TechSmart or a neighbor, because they're right there and they've got a lot of neighbors, and there could be an emergency that's created with a neighbor that causes us to have to react at TechSmart. Using cloud information like weather and humidity and wind direction and all of these other things that are constantly changing, we can provide directed response, either to go someplace or not go someplace, right? Rally at a particular place or not another place. So that's one way we would be using cloud at TechSmart. But you're absolutely correct. When we start talking about the larger industry and connecting multiple refineries together, or upstream, downstream, and midstream kind of assets together with a petrochemical company, cloud becomes critical, and you have to have that hybrid infrastructure. You don't want to send all your video to the cloud to get analyzed. You want to do that at the edge. You don't want to send all of your vibration data to the cloud. You want to do that at the edge. But yes, you do want to know when a pump fails or when something happens, so you can educate and train and learn and share that information and institutional knowledge throughout the rest of the organization.
Well, great. Before we sign off, let's take a quick look into the crystal ball, factory, or rather refinery of the future 5 years from now. Doug, it seems like you've got some runway, some interesting opportunities. Where do you see this going?
Dana, I love the word crystal ball. The crystal ball is often kind of foggy, but it's fun to look into it. I had mentioned earlier opportunities for education of a new workforce. Certainly, I am focused on the solutions that this IoT brings to efficiency, safety, profitability of TechSmart as a company, but I am definitely interested in giving people opportunities to find a job, to work in a good industry that can be a career.
Gerald, last word to you. I know HPE has got a lot going on, edge computing, making these data centers more efficient, more capable, more rugged. Where do you see the potential here for Internet of Things capability in refineries of the future, but even many other industries? Last shoe to fall on the future.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and I think we're going to see a lot of steam pick up. I mean, I have to give kudos to Doug. He is a visionary. Whether he admits that or not, he is actually showing an industry that has been around for hundreds of years, right? 100 years, how to actually do this, right, and be successful at it. And so that's incredible. And I think in that crystal ball look, that 5-year look, he's going to be recognized as someone who helped really transform this industry from old to new economy. As far as the edge go and what we're seeing here, with our converged edge systems, which was our first gen of this, and we created this market space out there of this converged edge product with the hardened stuff like that. We're already starting to work on gen 2 of these things, and we're starting to see more. And it's gonna get faster, and it's gonna get smaller, and it's gonna get cheaper, and it's gonna get more ubiquitous. And I see it as having a dramatic impact on what we can actually accomplish. And the workforce in 5 years is going to be a lot more virtual and augmented and have all of these capabilities, and it's going to be a lot safer for people, and it's going to be a lot more efficient.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been exploring how IT combines with the Internet of Things and modern operations methods to create the refinery of the future. And we've learned how a leading-edge petrochemical company in Texas is rethinking data gathering and analysis to foster a safer working environment as well as greater efficiency. So please join me in thanking our guests. We've been here with Doug Smith, the CEO of Texmark Chemicals in Galena Park, Texas. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun, Dana.
We've also been here with J.R. Fuller, Worldwide Business Development Manager for Edgeline IoT at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Thank you, J.R.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
And a big thank you to our audience as well for joining us for this BriefingsDirect Voice of the Customer Digital Transformation Success Story. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise-sponsored interviews. Thanks again for listening. Please pass this along in your IT community if you found it valuable, and do come back next time.